Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanctum YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing another AFL preview, and I'm talking about St Kilda today. And I've got three esteemed guests once again. You might remember them from the GWS preview. Well, guess what? We're back again, and we're doing St Kilda. And I will introduce the three players that are on hand today. We've got the one and only St Kilda fan who's raring to go for this one, Jared Thomas. JT, welcome.
Hello, it's good to chat Saints. I'm quite literally the only Saints fan in the inner sanctum, so it's nice to be able to spout some nonsense for a while.
It's going to be good. It's going to be joined as well with a bit of nonsense from Thomas Grattan. Thomas, welcome.
Always good to dip my toe into another team and keen to talk Saints.
Well, who else is dipping their toes into another team is Jackson. Jacko, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, mate. I'm going to keep my toes out of anywhere they shouldn't be.
I don't think I want to answer if you're going to keep insulting my football club. No, it's been fine. I mean, the off season has been something that it's what we'd like to call it is the most St Kilda off season you could possibly have. I think everything that is bad that has possibly happened has happened. We've lost Max King. We gained Jeff Walsh and then we lost Jeff Walsh. So yeah, we've had a lot of injuries that have really hurt us, but we've gained a lot of players that I think are going to be really helpful for us. And we've got a lot of young talent now that are going to kind of push through and get a chance to shine under a new coach, which is very exciting for us.
Grattan, how have you felt St Kilda's momentum in 2022? Obviously wasn't great, but have you felt, considering all of these changes and interruptions, has it hindered what St Kilda could potentially do in 2023?
Frankly, I was starting to wonder if somebody at Saints HQ had broken a mirror with all the injuries they gained this off-season. But, well, Ross is back in charge. Ross is the boss once more. So it never been a better opportunity to prove his coaching skills with such all these hindrances.
Yeah, and Jacko, we mentioned Ross the boss, Ross Lyon, joining back at St Kilda after a few years away from the football club. Back here as the head coach, how, with all of these interruptions and all of these injuries and hinders to the off-season, do you feel like he's still got what it takes to bring this club back where it probably should be, and that's in a strong, successful position?
Yeah, I think the key for Ross Lyon is to stick to the mantra he had at Fremantle. He needs to coach effort and he does not skill. Something that I feel like St Kilda sort of lacked was consistency in efforts, and I feel like if he can ingrain that into them, it'll go a long way to improvement.
JT, we'll look at the key ins and outs for St Kilda in 2023. Not too many outs as such that probably you would look at and go, big shock. Obviously, Ben Long went to Gold Coast, Paddy Ryder, Joan Geary, Dan Hannaby retired. You brought in some good quality, I think, players that can build into the next step of their careers. Have you found the ins and outs for your club?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it spot on. Now, the outs that we've had aren't really going to shake us too much. I think the Ben Long one really hurt me because, he was really good towards the back end of last year. He was our best player on the field against Sydney in the last round by a country mile. And he was, he was really good and really building towards it being a really good halfback. And I think he's going to have an awesome season at Gold Coast. And the Paddy Ryder one does hurt, but Marshall's going to have, an ability to kick on and really be a really, really good footballer. And then the ins that we got, they're kind of nothing crazy, the top. I think we had a really good draft, bringing in the likes of Philippou, who, he wanted to come and, he has a lot of sort of talent and he has a lot of raw potential that he can really tap into. He's got a lot of potential in the Sandful, and we love picking Sandful players up. It's kind of our bread and butter. So players like that, we haven't picked up anyone big. We haven't lost anyone too massive. So I think it's going to be a very interesting trade period, but it all happened before we got Ross anyway. So it'll be really interesting this year.
Grattan, I feel like Liam Stocker getting picked up from St Kilda is actually one of the feel-good stories of the off-season for the Saints.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly thought he was very hard done by to be cut from the Blues, especially with their injury struggles towards the end of last year, right? Felt like he was, really starting to find his own, and maybe it was been a harsh done by, but his loss may be St Kilda's gain. He's still relatively young. He's got I think 28 games under his belt, so he's already got some AFL experience, and it'll be really good to see what he can do in this Saints midfield should he get unleashed there with the loss of Dan Hanbury and Darren Geary, who will not be there in 2023.
Jacko, how did you find St Kilda's draft? Because I feel like they've actually taken in quite a decent, good crop of a good young crop of playing group. Obviously, they had 4 picks inside the top 50. They had pick 10 with Philippou coming into the side, probably one of the better South Australian talents going around, probably over the last couple of years. How did you find their draft?
I actually really liked it. I feel like, as you said, 4 picks in the top 50. I feel their best picks were the outside picks, really. Both South Australian boys, pick 10 and pick 44. There's been a lot made of Philippou, obviously, out of South Australia. Looks really good. Looks like he's going to make an instant impact. But I'm actually really excited to see how Isaac Keeler goes. He's a young project ruckman out of North Adelaide. Absolutely dominated last year in the Sandford reserves, and I think he's not one that'll come in and make an impact this year, but I think he's one they can store away and will make a really strong impact with Rowan Marshall over the next few seasons.
We talk about the draft and how important it is. JT, I'll ask you because you are the Saints man. Did you find after the trade period and coming into the draft, was it crucial to get right?
Yeah, I think it certainly was. I know myself, along with all the Saints fans, were quite not upset with how the trades went, but we didn't sort of think anything was good coming out of it. We lost Ben Long, which no one was really happy about. We all kind of really thought he had a lot of potential, and all we gained back was we gained Zane Cordy, who is good, defensive cover for us, but it's not sort of that player that we needed. And a lot has been made of the fact that we don't really have a lot of A-grade talent, other than sort of Steele and potentially Marshall at times. But we kind of were begging for someone to sort of come towards us. I know I was really keen on getting Tanner Bruin, but he had his heart set on Geelong, and that's fine. So we kind of had to set ourselves for the draft. And once we got Ross in, we kind of understood that we've got a bit of a chance here to make an impact in the draft. He doesn't have a lot of. He's always sort of been known to not have a lot of young players in his team at the time. But I think with our squad and the way it's set out, he's going to give a lot of these guys all the time to develop. And we've always talked about the players that become Ross's boys, and Ross always has those players that always benefit under him that they wouldn't under any other coach. And I think the likes of Philippou and Van Ees, who's the key defender, they're going to have massive years.
Gratz, I feel like the one thing from the off season that's become pretty major, we've talked about St Kilda probably not being as active in the trade period. I completely agree with everyone else's statements about the draft. I think they got that absolutely spot on for what they needed. But Max King, obviously, this is probably one of the big things that St Kilda fans dropped their heads at when they saw the news come out. How much of an impact is that going to have, both mentally and physically, in terms of presence on the field for St Kilda in 2023?
I think it's very interesting how one King brother missed all of 2022, and now the other King brother is now set to miss most, if not all, of 2023. But I genuinely believe that the loss of Max King to the St Kilda forward line is absolutely huge. Like you could just see his presence. His obviously his goal kicking has been a common discussion point, but when he is on point, he is absolutely huge. I distinctly remember the last game against the Swans that JT mentioned earlier. He was a massive presence. I believe he had kicked 5 or 6, and I think 4 of those came in the first quarter or so. So I really think that's a key indication for me for just how big a presence he is on the field and how big a loss he will be for the Saints in 2023.
Jacko, your thoughts on Max King's injury and his the loss of presence on the field for St Kilda?
It's obviously going to be a big presence lost out of that forward line. He's really the only key target through goal. But if I'm going to be honest, Max King has lost a lot of love with me. At the buys last year, I told everyone I knew that he was going to win the Coleman, purely from looking at it and mapping out the rest of the season and where everyone was at. And I was 100% confident. And then it looked like he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn until he came up against my Swans. So I can't help but feel he's got something against me personally. So the feeling's mutual, Maxie.
That's when it gets personal, you got problems. So hopefully Max can figure that out and get back on the park in 2023. Before we go into the questionnaire with the big 10 questions, I do want to touch on the coaching and the changes there. And JT, I reckon you're the perfect man to answer this. Put a bit of light on it, put a bit of positivity. And I reckon a lot of positivity's come from the coaching changes for St Kilda this year. Ross Lyon appointed head coach, Lenny Hayes, Brendan Goddard, Robert Harvey. He's got the 2019 pretty much back in that coaching box. It's all it's missing is Zach Dawson. So what do you feel? How are you feeling with that appointment, and also how much of an impact they're going to have on St Kilda this year?
Well, after this video, if everyone wants to go and watch my Ross Lyon sacked video, 1.5K views, it's fine. If everyone wants to go back and watch that after this, you'll figure out that in that one I spoke about the fact that if we got Ross back, he was going to bring back all the boys because it's his thing. And it helped with the fact that Lenny Hayes has assistant coach experience, and he brought him back. He was already back before Ross got there, though. Robert Harvey's been at Collingwood, he's been at Hawthorn, so they brought him back. Brought in Brendan Goddard. It's classic bringing back the 09 squad. And I think it's good, and I think we've got some of the best, if not like experience wise, we've just got some of the best like former talents in the coaching box of the league. We've got Lenny Hayes, Brendan Goddard, Robert Harvey. We have Corey Enright. We have Jared Ruffhead. It's a massive, massive box that former players that played around the time that Ross was really hitting his peak as a coach at the time in 2009, 2008, 2010. So it's really fun to see.
And they can't lace up the boots, huh?
I know. If we had Jared Ruffhead out there, imagine what we could do. But like, who knows? We will see how we go. But I love the fact that seeing all the old guys out there, seeing Lenny Hayes and Brendan Goddard back in Saints polos is something that's always good to see. So yeah.
Definitely. I love the positivity. I love the vibe that you give from the coaching panel. And the self-plug of 1.5 views was sensational, 1.5K. So very nicely done. It was actually 1.7. It was very well presented and very well edited. So good stuff there, JT. We'll move on into the questionnaire and make sure that we can really pinpoint exactly what St Kilda are going to do in 2023. I'll start with you, Grattan. How do you judge St Kilda's off-season as a whole?
Well, it's certainly hasn't been hasn't been boring. Let's just say that. And I think it's been interesting to see all the headlines focused around St Kilda. Not a lot of it has been around what they're actually doing on the training track at the minute. I mean, we've had Ross Lyon come in as coach. We've had all the ex-St Kilda greats come in as assistants. We've had Jeff Walsh join and leave. We've had Stephen Silvani join as list manager. Not a lot of conversation about what the players are actually doing on the training track at the minute. So I think once the season does get underway, right, all the hype, all the frenzy around, off field will go away, and it's just time to let the Saints, play some footy.
Jacko, how do you judge St Kilda's off-season as a whole?
Look, it was sort of the best of both worlds, I guess. It was so empty during trade period, and you wondered what they were going to do. They had a great draft, I feel like, and then there was just the off-field things. It's like you got the new list manager and you got Sauce back in. Ross Lyon came back, appointed coach. But it's just the Walsh as the CEO coming in and then going out, the Max King injury. It's just, I think it's, real middle of the road off season.
Yeah, definitely. And JT, I don't think you need to answer that question because literally in the notes that we wrote pre-show for this, you put one word, yikes. So I think that perfectly sums up that for any Saints fan. I'll go into the next question, which is a must pick for fantasy and Supercoach. We'll go around the room for this one. Grattan, I know you're an esteemed Supercoach fantasy man. Who are you picking from St Kilda?
It's got to be Jack Steele, doesn't it? He was many people's set and forget captain early on in 2022 before his unfortunate injury ruled him out for, I think it was 8 weeks or thereabouts. So, and myself included on that note, I think he's an absolute competitive bull. We know he gets plenty of the ball. He knows how to hit. He can hit the scoreboard from time to time. He's a tackling machine. All the things you need for your midfield. And I definitely will be putting Jack Steele in my team again.
JT, who are you selecting from your team to be a part of your fantasy this year?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Steele's obviously a safe bet, but I think, pardon me, I think a safe bet as well now is our first time All Australian in Jack Sinclair. He was an absolute weapon last year. He was far and wide our best player, and he just racks up disposals like it is nobody's business. I think Steele, he's injured and he was a little bit down on form than he usually is, and Sinclair really, really picked it up and became a premier halfback in the competition. And it's so good to see because, the years before he was really struggling to even break into the 22, and now he's just set his spot, and he's really put a lot of pressure on the likes of Hunter Clark and Nick Caulfield, who was out last year with an injury. He is forcing his way into that side, and he will pick up touches as much as you like. I was very upset I didn't have him last year, and by the time I wanted to get him, he was far too expensive for me. So Jack Sinclair is definitely a player that I would have.
Jacko, who are you selecting?
I hate to break the run of Jacks here, but we can all have the stars, but I think Mateus Philpou is going to be the one we need. We all need rookies. He looks exciting. He looks ready to go. He's cheap. I reckon he's someone that could, play on your field and be really good in the early part of the season.
Definitely, and I'm not picking any St Kilda fans, so leave that with me. What up to next? What's one change that needs to be made in 2023? JT, we'll start with you.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to figure out exactly pinpoint what it's going to be, especially with the way that Ross Lyon's going to run everything. It's going to be very different. I think Brad Hill, he's been a very contentious player since he's joined the Saints for both Saints fans and league-wide. We know he's on a lot of money. We know he doesn't always perform up to what he is, but I think he has to probably stay on the wing. He was trialled a little bit at halfback last year in the, when he first got around, and he's fine to get the ball, and he obviously can stay wide, but it's his defensive efforts that aren't as renowned. And so I think if you put him up on the wing and really sort of try and force him to get as much of his own footy as he can, when it gets out there on that wing, then it's going to be fine. I just think you can't push him back. He's all right at half forward, but you just can't push him back and just sort of keep him on the wing. And I think that's something that has to remain. You can't sort of throw him around a bunch and not get him used to one position. He has to stay in that spot and get used to it.
Grattan, what are you most excited for St Kilda in 2023?
I think the Back to the Future in the coaching box will be very exciting to see. A lot of talk about Ross Lyon's appointment was the fact that he's been out of the game for 12 months. Can he still cut the mustard coaching at the top level? And I think that'll be very interesting to see if he has developed and moved forward with the time and can create a game plan that will not only allow St Kilda to be competitive but return to the finals.
Jacko, who's ready for a breakout year?
Who's ready for a breakout year? I think Hunter Clark, it's finally his time. He's been waiting for it. He's been touted as someone who's ready to go. We just haven't seen it yet. So I feel like 2023 is the year we finally are going to, whatever position they settle with him in, I feel like 2023 is the year for Hunter Clark.
You know what? Someone else I would be definitely interested in watching, and I'll just chime in with a couple of thoughts here. Wanganeen Malira. Now, there's something about the kid that really brings a sense of energy. He's obviously got a lot of skill. He's got that talent. And if he's going to take it the next step, he's going to take it this year. I'm pretty sure he's out of contract at the end of the year as well. He's a South Australian lad. We always know that players like to play a little bit better in their end of year contracts. Just one, as a young kid, you want to ensure your future. Two, you want to see what else you can get just in case it doesn't work out. So I think he's one to definitely watch. But we'll do a headline you'll see, and I think we'll start with Thomas Grattan.
Going to be something related to roster boss, isn't it? I mean, he literally plays his old side in Fremantle round one, so there'll definitely be something emerging from that one.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that headline in every single paper that actually says something related to Ross the Boss. So I'm keen to read that one. JT, what's the headline you'll see?
I know you're going to make fun of me for it because it's not an exact headline, but something that Ross has sort of been known to do is if a high-rated player of his isn't performing as well as he needs him to, we'll just drop them. It's something that hasn't happened at St Kilda for years. There was a lot of calls for it in past years where we should have been dropping players and we weren't with the likes of Ratton and Alan Richardson. So a highly rated player, that's a gap, it's a blank, and before you make fun of me, dropped or something like that. So it'll be the likes of maybe a Brad Hill if he's not performing. It might be a Hunter Clark. It might be someone like a Tim Membry or something like that. If a high-rated player has had a few games where they haven't done what they need to do, they'll be dropped. But shorten your headline. Don't make fun of me for it. Give me a rest.
I'm sorry. I won't. No, I think it's great. Like, I completely agree. Maybe it'll be the whole team. Jacko, what do you think the headline will be?
I don't want to get bullied. I'm going to come up with the headline here. I know I've given him a whack on the way out earlier, but I think Max King's going to come in at some point late in the season and he's going to dominate. And on the back page of the paper, you'll see the King returns.
Thank you. Finally, someone gave me a decent approach. We'll go to one game you all would love to see from St Kilda this year. What's a must-watch on the calendar? Grattan?
Round 1, 4:40 against Fremantle at Marvel. It just has to be Ross the Boss against his old side, and I think it's a very
hangover time slot.
It'll definitely get a little bit of attention, and it'll be good to see this St Kilda side facing up against one of the big improvers from 2022 in the Fremantle Dockers.
It's definitely a Dwayne Russell time slot to be commentating that one. Jacko, which one are you watching this year from St Kilda?
One of my favourite games as the calendar as a Swans fan is the pride game between the Swans and the Saints at the SCG. So when it comes to the Saints, that one's on my calendar every year and I'm looking forward to getting down there and supporting the moment.
Yeah, I think a lot of special games come from St Kilda. One in particular is Maddie's match, so we're looking forward to watching that one. But JT, I think what you've written in your notes here that I can see that everyone else is about to find out is probably the most special moment, and it's one that we haven't actually mentioned in this preview. What game are you looking forward to?
It's very exciting for us as fans anyway, and for the players, but it's our 150th year this year. It's been 150 years of a bit of heartache, but we all still follow and we all still support, and so it's really cool to see. We haven't had a home game at the G in a very long time, but this year round 3 against the Bombers, we're playing a home game at the MCG for our 150-year celebration. It's going to be a massive, massive night for us. It'll be huge. It'll be packed. Saints fans I haven't seen at the games in maybe 10 years will be there, and we'll see how we go. And it's gonna be awesome to see. But I think playing a home game at the MCG is something really, really special for us. And the fact that we get to celebrate such a cool occasion is definitely gonna be awesome.
Yeah, definitely one to soak in for St Kilda fans. A big celebration for the club. It's been a sensational 150 years, regardless of one premiership. It's still been. It's still a fans club. It's still been one of the better clubs you'll see, I know, since I've been alive anyway. So we'll go into the minimum expectation for your club this year. And I'll start with you, Grattan. What do you expect from St Kilda as a minimum this year?
I think St Kilda should be in finals contention for at least some part of the year. I think they still have the talent that could gel together. And this is a side that only made finals 2 years ago, and we're well in the mix at the halfway point of 2022 before pulling away. So I definitely expect the St Kilda side to be right in the mix this year.
Beautiful. And we'll go to the last question, which is where will the club finish this year? St Kilda are finishing where, Jacko?
St Kilda are going to finish 11th, I feel. I don't think there hasn't been that much of a change in the squad. And I feel like when Ross comes in, he makes a lot of changes to the game style. I think it's going to take a year to settle in. And with the inconsistency we've seen out of the Saints, I think it's going to leave them around 11th this season.
Grattan, where do you think St Kilda will finish this year?
12th. I believe they will finish 12th.
JT, if you're going to go run with the trend, I can only assume it'll be one number. What do you think your club will finish this year?
At least I'm going to be specific this one, unlike the Giants where I said 15th-ish. I've got an exact position this time, and it's because I think and sort of along the lines of Jacko's, our list is very much the same. Because we got Ross after the trade period, I think the squad that it is at the moment isn't exactly what Ross would want. He was known, and he did this in 2007 as well. He has sort of a year, a filling out period where he'll get the game plan down. Whoever doesn't fit that game plan, he'll pretty much get rid of, and he'll bring in the players that he knows will do it. So I think this year won't be as good as what we can be next year. So I'm going to we're going to finish 10th because it's a very good spot, and I know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to be in mathematical contention in round 23, but it'll be a situation where like someone has to lose by 90 and we have to win by 140. So it'll be like that kind of situation but we'll finish 10th, and we won't quite improve from last year, but then it'll be the year after we'll go up.
For a nice callback, you better hope that's not the game against the Giants where Toby Green kicks 9. If you want to hear the start of that joke, go back and listen to the Giants podcast.
And it'll be funny too, because that one will be out before this one. So very much keen to see how it all pans out for St Kilda. It's going to be a massive year. 150 years celebration has been mentioned. It's a big year for the club, new coaching, new players, an exciting time for a brand new future at St Kilda. Boys, thank you very much for joining me for this AFL preview.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Well, make sure you watch all the other AFL previews that have come out recently. Check out the whole playlist. There's plenty more to look out for on the Sanctum YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe for plenty more content. We'll see you all next time.